Hello, and welcome to another edition of U.S.-Japan Council's Japanese American and Japan Legacies video series. I'm Deborah Nakatomi, and Diane Fukami and I are members of USJC and your hosts for this series of dialogues highlighting the life and journeys of prominent Japanese American leaders who are pioneers in developing the U.S.-Japan relationship. Through their stories, we will learn about the role of Japanese Americans in strengthening U.S.-Japan relations and the ways Japan has contributed to Japanese American identity and community. As we get started, we'd like to thank the U.S.-Japan Council for providing this opportunity to share these powerful stories. We would also like to thank our friends at Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs for their invaluable support of this program and of Japanese American leaders and the U.S.-Japan relationship. Today, Diane and I are happy to welcome Atsuko Toko Fish, USJC board member, women's leadership advocate, and philanthropist, and good friend. We invite you to please submit your questions throughout our conversation with Atsuko because we'd like to include them as we wrap up the program today. So welcome, Atsuko.
Thank you.
We're very excited to share your story today with everyone who's tuned in. Yes, absolutely. So as we get started, we'd like to start from your early life in Japan. We know that you have a really compelling story as a young girl growing up, and your childhood experiences set you on a path that both challenged you as a young girl and also influenced the choices that you've made along the way. So please start from the beginning and tell us about your early childhood.
First of all, thank you very much for giving me a great opportunity, Deborah and Diane, and also Suzanne. This is my honor to be interviewed right after Tom. There are so many distinguished members, of USJC. So I feel very humble, chosen to be the second interviewee, and I am very excited. Thank you very much for the opportunity. So I will say that I was born just before the World War II ended in Japan. So when I was growing up, Japan lost war and society was recovering from Tokyo was bombarded, as you know, so that the area I was born, it was all burned down. So we started from the scratch. So the time when I was growing up, everything was trying to catch up America, learn from America, trying to be wealthy, trying to be happy, economically coming back, that kind of a time. And US brought to a co-ed education system to Japan. And then I was one of the co-ed trial student. And it was very great opportunity for me. Therefore, from the very early stage, I get used to growing up with the boys. And that picture. So I was not, when I get older, I was not worried about the boys. I was very comfortable with boys. That was a very good thing. And then my mother was a single mother. Actually, my father, unfortunately, he died toward the end of the war. He was he had a special mission on the green ship to deliver injured American soldiers, deliver the medicine and letters. He had a special mission. It was called Green Cross ship, not Red Cross, but after he delivered, unfortunately, his boat, the ship was sunken by American submarine. But interesting thing is the name of the submarine was Queen Fish. And after that, I married to Mr. Fish. And so imagine to tell my mother those days they don't marry to foreigner, particularly enemy who killed my father, and then same name. But interesting, my mother was a great woman. She was my mother, of course, and she was single mother, so she was working. So she was my mentor, and then she was role model, and then at the end she was the best, very best friend. And she said to me, if I believe he's the man I like, try on. Well, I almost choked. And then she said, if doesn't work out, I'm here for you. You can come back anytime. And she really pushed my back. And she was a great woman. And
so Atsuko, you had a lot of strong women in your life. I mean, which I think contribute to you being such a powerhouse of a woman yourself. Tell us a little bit about the impact of your mother, your grandmother, and then how going to a co-ed school, which I guess was a pretty pretty novel concept, a progressive concept in those times, sort of helped shape you become into becoming the woman that you are today.
Well, luckily the grandmother was used to be the teacher, and then even my mother was single mother and working. Grandmother was the anchor of the family, and then she always pushing education is so important. But my family was a samurai family, and December the 15th, that's the day of the 47 samurai. So that's the day revenge and then committed suicide. So we had a scroll and a sword, and I have to sit in front of grandmother, and she's telling story after story. I hate it, but I was raised as a samurai's daughter. There is a certain rules for the samurai daughter. At the same time, my mother was a working woman, and then this is a very interesting story. It gave me a huge impact to me. She was working for U.S. military. Well, U.S. government. After the war, they have a census. You have to research what's the situation in Japan. So she was able to speak English because she was a diplomat wife, and she was working for Census Bureau. But interesting thing is, every morning there is a military police in Tokyo. Can you imagine? There was a military police was in Tokyo because trying to avoid a coup. Anyway, so he comes with a uniform and then jeep, and then he opened a door for my mother, and then he salute. And I was before elementary school. I was watching her, and I said, "Wow, man, come and open the door for the women." And then salute. And then my mother was wearing the suit and hat and white glove. And I said, wow, it's cool. I would like to work too. So from very early stage, I became independent. Working is, those days, nobody, women works, you remarry if you lose the husband. But she was a role model, and I wanted to work. And in Japanese, it's called kakkoi. I said, wow, working is wonderful. So I became very independent very early. And then, so I have a two education, grandmother educator as a samurai's daughter at the same time. And she is a role model of business. And then my mother told me over and over again, after the war, Japan is a small island, smaller than the state of California. After the war, the world is a global, beyond Japan, and the English is a tool. And that's what she told me. So even when I'm a child at school, I'm thinking about beyond. Somewhere I was looking somewhere far away. That's the family education I had.
So in your teens, you started playing tennis in your youth, and and when we had spoken earlier, you talked a little bit about how tennis was such a formative part of your life and the life lessons that you learned on the tennis court. Tell us a little bit about that.
Right. Tennis ultimately taught me fighting spirit. The women in Japan, of course, even Samurai's daughter, you do not, women thinking about the fight or go in front, that sort of culture is not there. But tennis is such an individual sports, and you have to depend on your skill and your health, and then your strategy, and your everything is up to you because it's a single game. So I have learned fighting spirit, and also another thing is, even you are at the tournament, the finalist, unless you win, even the game is such a close game, unless you win, you would not get the trophy. And then winner, I learned winner and then loser. That was a tough lesson, but through the sports is very clear, winner and loser is so clear. And then those days, women don't get into that kind of situation, but tennis taught me fighting spirit. Until you grab, unless you grab the trophy, you are not the winner. That's taught me lesson. And when after that, when I encounter trouble or challenges, that fighting spirit always inspire me, and said, you can do it, you can try, do your best, you know. So that was sports was a big lesson to me. And then another element of the sports is any game. Interesting part of the sports is, unless it start, of course you can predict which team is stronger or who is Osaka Naomi is the best player, but unless it start, you never know. So that's another thing. Even I am playing against champion number 1 and I'm a ranking maybe 50. Maybe she ate something wrong last night and she may have a little bit of stomach trouble. You never know. So you always, if you try, there is always chance. That's the interesting part of the sports. So that I learned.
So there are so many lessons that you've already shared in your very early life around self-reliance, independence. I love this the fighting spirit metaphor for sports, because we know that when girls have an opportunity to compete, that they gain different types of confidence in an early stage, which gives them that winning attitude. And
now we have a women professional kicker, the football. There is a woman.
That's right.
Right. So
that's right. She's changing the sport as we know it. So the other lesson that you learned at an early stage in your life was globalism, of being able to see yourself in a global context by learning English and really being able to understand your place in the world. So I know that when we spoke earlier, you talked about your early career and your first job with the American Chamber of Commerce. And there were some really good lessons that you learned there as a young woman. And I'd really love to hear you share some of those lessons and stories.
Right. When I have applied, well, I was at the graduate school student, and as I said, I was raised by the single mother, so I had a scholarship through elementary up to college, and then I always working. I have a part-time job because I always need the money. And I need to buy tennis racket. I need to buy tennis outfit, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so when I was a student, there is opportunity came. American Chamber of Commerce in Tokyo was looking for executive director's secretary, which is not just a secretary, high position, but I applied. And for some reason, I was hired. Then the first day, there was a typewriter. Well, I was able to type pretty fast, and I said, well, I can do it. but this was an electric typewriter. I have never, it was IBM electric typewriter. Do you know those? Maybe you're too young to know that. But those,
No.
because the normal typewriter, you have to push, but electric typewriter, when you touch it goes zzz, and I have never ever seen anything like that. And so director dictate the letter, and then he is waiting for me to sign, but no matter how much I try to type, it goes zzz. So it took one letter take, I don't know, took so many hours, and he's such a gentleman. He's pacing in behind me, back and forth and back and forth. He never said, "Atsuko, are you ready?" Oh my God. Yes, this is the meeting.
Tell us what we're looking at.
Well, on the right, he was the Colonel Jackson. He was from the military, and on my right, Mr. Newman. And then I cannot tell, but and an interesting thing is in America, they will have a cocktail during lunch meeting. Some people highball, some people are margarita, and I said, oh my God, business meeting, people drink. But I made a mistake, something like that. They are very patient, and then they are very open people. And then I told them that I have never used an electric typewriter. So they gave me a typewriter I can bring home so that I can practice. It took a long time, but to practice. And then also all kind of meeting I have to go. For example, license and patent meetings. I have no idea. I was a graduate school, and my major was an international relationship, but license and patent, my English was pretty good, but I was not able to understand anything. I have to take a minute. So anything I understood, write it down, and I have to take it. I have to be honest. I'm sorry, I did not understand. And then they gave me a book to read. What is about license and patent? Why license and patent is so important in trade between U.S. and Japan. And that was my first encounter about business. I see America trying to bring in a lot of interesting technology or manufacturing, all that, but there is you have to apply patent and license and all of that. And so that was a lot of learning. But Americans are very nice people. They never scream at me. They never scold me. Maybe I was only 20, 4 or 5. I was very young. I don't know. They thought that I'm just a kid, but they are very patient. They always help me and accept me, and then try to encourage me to learn. And I said, wow, people in Americans are very generous, kind people. That's my first impression I had through American Chamber of Commerce. But I made mistakes, so many mistakes. Oh my gosh.
Atsuko, one of the things that you told me as you were sampling different jobs was your experience working for a TV station and the whole banging your head against the forehead. So tell us a little bit. I mean, you seem to be a very quick study. You might make a lot of mistakes, but I bet you don't make the same mistake twice. But you know, you're talking about Americans who are giving you very good advice and being very generous with their advice, but this happened to be a Japanese executive who talked to you. So share the story with us about banging your head.
This story. Well, I was working for a television production company. Particularly, I was in charge of the sports program and tennis and small ball table tennis, golf, and etc. So after we create the program, I have to sell the program I created to the network. So I was saleswoman, but I have never done it sales, and I don't know how to sell the sports program to the TV networks. Those sports field is also very male oriented area, and then I have to go and convince them they think this program is interesting so that they can on air. And so I tried everything. I was not afraid to go to the everybody, all the men. I can talk to them, but I was not able to convince the program we are creating was good enough, and I was not be able to sell. And then I went to the many times, but not be able to sell. And one day, director of that division said to me, "Atsuko, shall we have a dinner?" And I said, yes. He may be able to take me to the nice restaurant, you know. But we went to the nice restaurant. He asked me to sit face to the wall, and I said, why? I have to face to the wall anyway. We had a nice dinner, and he started talking about I am not successful to sell anything we produce. Some of the nice tennis programs, and then so he asked me, why do you think I cannot sell? And I said, I'm doing this. I have a strategy. I have a good product and this and this. And he said, no, you know what you're doing? So I said, no, I don't know. And here is a door, be able to sell the program. And here is a door. And you're trying to open the door and then push. And then doesn't open, so you push harder and then doesn't open. So from the far away you run and bang the door with your body, it still doesn't open. And I'm banging, door does not open. No matter what I do, the door would not open. So I don't know what to do. So he said, you are banging your forehead to the door, bang, bang, bang. And then when I visualize the stupid me banging my forehead to the door, obviously I start crying. So he knew it, and he said, let me sitting facing to the wall. And then he said, why do you think the door would not open? I said, no, I am pushing with almighty power, and then doesn't open, push open. And he said, have you ever thought about this door can be pulled to open, or slide to the right, or slide to the left, or even open? Have you ever thought about different method? And then I cannot believe, oh my God, I'm doing the same pattern over again. I was not flexible to think about the different approach. And that lesson, I still, when I have a problem, I think about him. You know, that was a lifetime lesson. And nice gentleman. Then after that, I successfully sold my program. Well.
So tell us a little bit about the love of your life, Mr. Fish. We have a couple of photos that we'd like to share.
Oh my
They're
gosh.
wedding photos. So go ahead. So, go ahead, Atsuko. Tell us about Larry.
Well, you know, he was a banker. And when I have met him, he was wearing in the Marunouchi, you know, all the banking. He was with the Bank of Boston, and he was wearing the striped pin 3-piece vest and then gold chain of the clock, you know, the kind of guy. It was a blind date. My American girlfriend met him, and then he was looking for someone to play tennis. And then she said, I know Atsuko. She speaks English and play tennis. So Larry one day called me and asked me to play tennis. So we play tennis, but I used to be almost champion of the high school and even the college. And even Larry is tall. And we played, and then 5-0, I was winning. So I said to him, well, I'm getting thirsty and a little bit tired. Shall we stop it? And Larry had no idea, short, tiny Japanese women can beat him. But in Japan, the first time you meet the man, you don't beat in the sports. That's no. So I was very humbly, I am so Japanese humbly, I am thirsty, I'm a little bit tired, shall we stop? And then Larry said, sure, he had no idea. He had no idea. I was trying to give him, not making him lose weight, lose face. But when we engaged, I have to take him to the graveyard of the 47 samurai in Shinagawa. There is a temple, everybody committed suicide. And then I have to, my family is a samurai family. If you betray, this is going to be, you will be in trouble. And then Larry took it pretty seriously, that, I think, and he has been wonderful husband. And then also, after we married, we moved to Hong Kong. His job was a Far East, and he asked me to go. That was a 1970, late 70. So Vietnam War was ended, and then a lot of refugees from Vietnam and Cambodia refugee, both people are in Hong Kong, and there was a refugee camp. And Larry suggested, why don't you volunteer and work there? I have no idea volunteer in Japan. Japan lost war, so we had to work. We didn't have any notion of helping other people. We needed to be being helped. But, well, when you first marry, husband said, why don't you go and volunteer? So I went, and I had no idea those little kids, skinny, and then the camp was, the tropical weather, it's so smelly, they do pee everywhere, and then tiny. If you go to ski, there are the bunk bed, but there are 5 or 6 bunk bed, and all I could have done is read story to them. But that was the first time. I wouldn't say I didn't know the philanthropy at all, but I have met first time refugee children. And my husband is a Jewish boy, and an important thing, the Jewish people give back to society. That was a beginning. And then everything I'm doing that, Larry is always behind me. Atsuko, do it. And he has been encouraging me. And in my life, most influential person was my mother, but she's passed. So someone who is living, the most influential or encouraged me to do the philanthropy, and then who am I is because of him.
So eventually you and Larry make your way to Massachusetts, and you don't have a job, and you decide that you want a job, and you get the idea of writing to Massachusetts Governor Michael Dukakis. Tell us what happened next.
Well, yes, we came 1983 with one child, and I'm 7 months pregnant, and I was looking for a job. I had a good job in Japan. I had a job in Hong Kong, and my English is fine. And so I thought that I can find a job right away. However, I have not been to Harvard. I have not been to MIT, or I have never educated in America. I forgot about that. So no matter how much I sent application, I could not find any job. Nobody even interviewed me. So out of desperation, one day, I realized that the state of Massachusetts in Japan has a long historical tie, but there is nobody is in charge to do the business or tourism. So I thought that that's very mottainai. That's too bad. So I wrote short letter to governor, suggested that you should open, trade mission or trade person, tourism person. And then he called me one day and he said he would like to hear about it and he would like to have a short-term and long-term strategy how to do it. And then I am utterly shocked that governor, I am foreigner. Well, I was already maybe citizen yet. I'm not sure. Anyway, so I sent the proposal and then he said, come to see me. And then he asked how to do it and strategy and the timeline and budget and all of that. But he never even once asked whether I have been to the college in America or what kind of business experience in America. He did not ask anything. He was only interested my strategic plan, how to develop US-Japan business plan and the tourism, and then also culture. And after our interview, he hired me on that spot with a budget, with assistant, with computer lesson. And then I thought, this is the real American dream. I'm the immigrant. I did not go to school in America, but if you have a clear vision and strategy and then ready to work, I was hungry to work. This is I used to learn in elementary school, America is a free country and opportunity country, but I have never thought about that can happen to me, but it did happen. And Governor Dukakis is a man of visionary. He did not ask, who am I, which school I went. This is a real American dream story, I think. Therefore, I love America.
So what are we seeing in this picture, Atsuko?
Oh, this is a Mrs. Dukakis. And this is we took Mrs. Dukakis and then Governor Dukakis to Japan. This is me. And in the middle, she's a principal of the autistic children's school. And then she opened up in Massachusetts because the Japanese autistic teaching method she wanted to export to Japan. This is US-Japan, not just US technology go to Japan, but Japanese school system can come to Massachusetts, and school is still there and very successful, and we help them.
So your story of initiative and finding opportunities and finding your voice as a leader is very inspiring. And I know that you have been very influential in creating a number of organizations. And also you've been at various places to really play a pivotal role. And I want to fast forward from those days in Massachusetts to 3/11, March 2011, because as a resident then living in the US, you were extremely responsive during the Tohoku disaster, earthquake and tsunami. And tell us a little bit about that period of time and how that really reconnected you so much with both women's organizations as well as the relief effort. in Japan, as well as what was happening here in the U.S.?
Well, relate to the women comes after that, but the immediate relief, well, the day I saw on the television, I could not believe what's happening in Japan. And the country where I'm from, I grown up and born and grown up, and I thought I have to do something about that. So I start raising money, and I raised $6 million. People in Japanese people in the community, as well as the people in Boston, American people in Boston. This is different from the pandemic now. This is only happened in Japan, and people who admire Japan, Japanese culture, they are all very kind to donate, and then we raised $6 million. And then I went to Tohoku in April 2011. Actually, Laura is the one I have met. I didn't know her, but I met her in as a Wujuban. And those days, nobody wants to go there because you never know the situation.
And you're speaking of Laura Abbott?
Yeah.
From U.S. Japan Council,
right.
Who at the time was in the Tokyo office.
Right.
Of,
and
the council.
Americans are all
or the ambassador.
Escaped from Japan, and somebody left the car for her. So the six of us, the road was like this, highway was like this, but we got the car. There was no transportation, and train has stopped, and highway shut down. And so we didn't have no way to get there, because April, it happened in March, and it's only within 1 month. But Lola got the car, somebody escaped from Tokyo, left the car for her. So I don't remember how I met her. Anyway, I met her, and then she said she's going to go. And then I had actually someone from Massachusetts. Oh my God, what's the name of the organization? I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the organization. Anyway, they said they have a space for me to sleep as long as I get the transportation. So Laura said, I'm planning to go. If you want to come with me. So
Atsuko, Laura is tuned in today, and she says the name of the organization was All Hands Volunteers.
Oh, that's right, All Hands. And
she's cheering your participation today in this interview.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, she's here.
I owe Lola a lot, because if there is no Lola, I was not able to, even I raised so much money, I was not able to help people. But I strongly believe, because I had other experience in the past and working for Africa, etc. So the important thing is you have to go to the ground and see with your own eyes what is the immediate needs is. Because nobody wants to, US military was there, and it was so early, but $6 million, some of the elementary school kids selling juice, making lemonade and selling, give me $10. So I'm responsible for all the money I had. So I determined I'm going to go, and the whole family against it, because the radiation, you never know how bad the radiation is. But I determined I have a money, I would like to help. And that's the philosophy. It was not in Japan. Japan is a rich country, the third, the economically biggest economic country in the world, but they are, the philanthropy we have in America was not 9 years ago, was not there. So the money is not pouring in yet. And so we stayed, and then we even moved the debris, and the debris, all the dead fish was there. And then if you come back from the moving debris, you smell like a horrible, and then there is no shower, there is no ofuro, you have to go onsen somewhere. Anyway, that sort of experience, I witness what local people, what they need, particularly women, what they need. Men, they can talk to the city hall or mayor, but not the women. So basically, the big job what I did was that everybody was staying at the gymnasium, and there is no partition, so the pregnant women or mother can give the milk, or no privacy. So I worked with the architect and then build a partition in a huge gymnasium, and that is the most necessary small thing, but that sort of things. And then also the architect, they wanted to building temporary house build is so slow, and then it's March is snowing, it's a snow country, and then cold, and wood fabricated building is thin, and then it's not warm. So one of the architect, his name is Ban, he suggested to use the abandoned container, and then cut the window, cut the door, and then stuck the 3 stories building. It looks like maybe you have a picture. It looks like a condominium in Roppongi. It's beautiful color. And then
we don't have pictures of those, but we've seen those pictures.
Right. So
yeah, very modern.
We used the money for that, and that was a very early stage. And then the picture you showed me, that the mayor of the Fukushima, and thanks to us, what was done. So I have learned a lot, and Japan was economically number 3 country, but philanthropy is not there 9 years ago.
Atsuko, one of the things that we at USJC have known you for a long time is your pioneering spirit in Japanese women's leadership, and especially with your founding of the Japanese Women's Leadership Initiative. Talk to us a little bit about that and how it's going right now, the program that you started, and the success that you've had with that.
Right. JWLI, Japanese Women's Leadership Initiative, is a program for nonprofit women, personal growth and leadership empowerment. It is not the academic program, it's a practical training program, but that is not directly connect to Tohoku, actually. Because I started this program 2006, way before Tohoku started. But what connected me was, of course, through Laura. I joined USJC. And then I just would like to talk about the USJC, because I was outlaw in Japan, went to the boys' school and playing tennis and working early. So I was outlaw in Japan. And then I married to Larry and came to Boston. But 35, 36 years ago, still New England, country club, a tennis club, there is no Asian. And the banking, ABA, huge ABA conference and etc., no Asian. I've been here 37 years, but those days, so I felt like I was outlaw in Japan. And when I came to US, even governor took me but I'm a first generation immigrant, and I have a accent in my English is maybe okay, but I have a Japanese accent, blah, 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 and black hair and brown eyes. So even in America, I was a outsider. But when I went to Seattle annual USJC annual meeting, first when I walk in, it was a 200, 300 people were there. Someone tall was walking to me and offered me hand and said, I am Fred Katayama.
Katayama.
And then I said, I lived in LA for a few years, so I knew him, and wow, he's the TV newscaster. Wow, then he came to me and say hi, and then I said, wow. And then after that, Tom came, another tall man came, and then, hi, I'm Tom, and he was speaking at the opening. He was a chairman of the USJC, and then I said, oh my God, this organization, people are so nice. People come to me and say hello to me. This is different. I was in outlaw in Japan, and Boston, I was outsider, except the Governor Dukakis. But I felt like, wow, somehow I belong to USJC. This is a place, first generation Japanese, I can feel connected. And then this is somewhere I feel comfortable. And then I have been the board of Japan Society, Boston, New York, and lot. So I know those US-Japan related organizations, but they are providing reception or a lecture, and then member looking for opportunity to get to know people or culture, or they go there looking for something benefit for you. But USJC member there, what can I do to make Japan and US more connected? Very different. And I said, wow, this is what this is what I love. And I'm so excited. So after that, I called Irene and said, I would like to meet with her. And she was such a busy person. So when I went to Washington, she said, Atsuko, I have 10 minutes. And she had a between meeting. And at the lobby of the hotel, she said, what can I do for you, Atsuko? And you know, she's very open and she's very casual, welcoming. And we talked a little bit. And at the end, I said, I feel like I belongs to USJC. And then I said, I can contribute, I can help, you know, perhaps women's leadership and other things. And I am very excited to be part of it. Then at the end of the conversation, it's just like a Governor Dukakis. Irene said, Atsuko, I want you to join the board. And I said, what? And she said, I know so many things you can do. I want you to be the board. Think about it, she said. And I was so surprised, but wow, what an honor. I thought about it one day, and then I called her and said, it's my honor. I want to be the part of the board and make a difference. And what a visionary Irene is. She's very quiet and then gentle person, but inside she is good, and I liked it, and to work with someone insightful, very insightful. We talk only 10 minutes, you know. And then that reminds me, Governor Dukakis, in America, people like that, this is the people who changed, make a difference in the world. And so that's my memory of Irene, and I learned a lot from her leadership, you know, and she really make a big difference.
Well, Atsuko, you speak as if your experience is typical, but you're not a typical woman by any means, you know? I mean, you've been honored at the White House for your work. You've been honored by the government of Japan with the Order of the Rising Sun. It's phenomenal. I mean, at this point in your life, you look back on your life. Was your mother here to see any of this at all? What do you think she would have been thinking if she knew that you were going to be in the White House to be honored or being honored by the Emperor of Japan?
Well, thank you for asking. You know, my mother also the woman of the vision. She, when I left Japan, she said, "You are the ambassador of Japan, women ambassador. You will represent well. You will well represent Japan. Always think about that." And then she gave me a kimono. That's the kimono I wear when I received the award from the emperor. And then she knew it somehow. She gave me, this is a kimono she gave me.
Oh.
So she knew it. Well, she didn't know, but she was paved the road for me. And then it's interesting. She thinks that I can make it. Otherwise, she wouldn't push to marry Larry. And I'm very grateful now, but she paved the road for me. And she had a visionary. She knew something I can do. And when I was a child, one day when I go to school, she could not prepare the uniform for me. And I said, "Hazukashi, I feel shame to go school, everybody wearing uniform. We could not afford the uniform." And she said, "This is washed, there is no hole, and iron it. There is nothing ashamed of. Wear it and go to school." I was 6 years old, but she said, "Shame is when you lie or when you steal, and then when you're not able to use your brain well." I still remember that my mother was that kind of woman, you know. So she will not be surprised that finally I received, award from the emperor. Well, she was saying that be like that, you know. I'm choking to
Thank
talk
you.
about my mother.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing it. I'm sure she's very proud of everything that you've accomplished. So we want to go to a couple of questions. We have gotten some questions. We just have a few minutes left, but one of the questions is, you are a great inspiration. And the question is, what's next for you?
Wow. Well, this is an interesting time. COVID changed a lot of things. And then I think the value, it's a time for us, American, Japanese, both. What is the right value? People notice that making money is good, but when you are COVID and staying home, what the money will do to you. So this is a game change time. And then also, I have just noticed in Japan recently, we gave an award to the nonprofit women. And then there is a lot of new type of women received award. And then they openly talk about social justice and then also women's rights. And those words, a few years ago when I speak, I was told, please do not use women's rights or social justice. So I think, well, of course, America is changing a lot. So it is a time to change. And then I would like to go, our community, JWLI ecosystem community, we can share our strengths and the power of collective voice and the action and advocacy. I would like to share with the women in Asia. I would like to share women in Africa, Middle East, because they have a very similar cultural unjust.
Mhm.
And I would like to encourage group of Japanese women. They can make a difference and they can connect with them. And in a very small way, humble way, I am not the government, and my foundation is not the Gates Foundation or Rockefeller Foundation. I have a small money, but small money can make a difference. I believe in that, and women can do that.
Yes. Well, thank you for being such an amazing trailblazer and role model.
Thank you.
And showing how, in your unique way of building bridges, you have been so impactful and continue to be.
Thank
So we want
you.
to thank you very much for your time, and we appreciate everything that you have contributed to improving the U.S. and Japan relationship. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
We need to wrap up our program, and we want to first thank everyone who is participating today for tuning in and taking time to listen to Atsuko's amazing story. Your support of the U.S.-Japan Council.
How can I find out some questions? Can I find out some questions? After that.
Yes, they are here, and we pulled a few of them and we included them in the discussion already, and there are still a few more that are coming in.
Okay, great.
So we want to thank everyone for your participation, and today especially, and when the seminar ends, you'll be receiving a short survey. Please take a moment to complete it. And our next series will be on January 19th, and we will soon be announcing who we will be interviewing. So thank you so much for joining us today, and have a wonderful holiday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Atsuko.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.